I have been camping solo for 8 years, and I have a system. Everything goes in the same place every night. Boots outside the tent door facing outward so I can step into them fast. Headlamp clipped to the tent zipper. Phone inside the sleeping bag. I know where everything is without looking. I woke up on the second night at around 3 in the morning, and I reached for my headlamp. It was not clipped to the zipper. It was on the floor of the tent beside my sleeping bag. I assumed I had moved it without remembering, and I turned it on and unzipped the tent to check on something outside. My boots were gone. Not knocked over, not pushed aside. Gone from where I had placed them. I put the headlamp beam around the campsite and found them 20 feet from the tent. Side by side, neatly placed, facing the tent. Not the direction I had left them facing the tent. I picked them up, and I put them back on, and I packed my camp at 3 in the morning, and I hiked out in the dark. I do not know what moved my boots. I know that whatever did it placed them deliberately, side by side, facing the tent where I was sleeping, 20 feet away. It was not wind. It was not an animal. Both of my boots were placed with the same care. My friend Kofi and I had been doing summer camping trips together for 4 years. We know each other's voices better than we know our own. On the second night of a 3-day trip, we were both in the tent when I heard my name. Outside the tent. Clearly, in a voice that was not Kofi's because Kofi was lying next to me and had not spoken. I did not say anything. I lay still. 30 seconds later, Kofi heard his name. He grabbed my arm in the dark. He whispered, "Did you just call me?" I told him I had not. We lay in that tent for a very long time listening to the forest be completely normal. We have talked about it many times since. The voice that called my name was not a voice either of us recognized. The voice that called Kofi's name, he said it sounded like it was trying to be a voice it had learned recently. Like the cadence was right, but something behind it was not. Neither of us went outside. Neither of us answered. We lay still until morning and broke camp at first light. Whatever called our names in the Ouachita that night knew our names. We had been in that forest for 2 days, and we had not spoken to another person. This is going to sound like I was dreaming. I was not dreaming. I have been camping long enough to know the difference between half asleep and awake, and I was awake. Something grabbed the outside of my tent and pulled. Not the door, not the zipper, the fabric of the side wall. Something gripped the fabric from outside and pulled it inward, slowly, the way you pull something when you want to feel what is resisting on the other side. I was on the other side. My shoulder was against that wall because it was a small tent. I felt the pull. I did not move. I did not breathe loudly. I lay completely still against the fabric that something was pulling from the other side. It held for maybe 10 seconds, then released. I lay in that tent until first light. When I came out and looked at the side wall, there was a depression in the fabric. Not a tear, not a mark, just the specific shape of where something had gripped it from the outside and held. I packed my camp and left. I have been back to the Monongahela since. I check the side walls of my tent every morning now before I pack them. Does something pulling the tent wall slowly, the way you pull to feel what is resisting, tell you it already knew something was in that tent and wanted to feel how much it weighed? Drop it below. My partner and I camped near a small creek on our second night in the Chattahoochee. The creek was maybe 30 meters from the tent. We could hear it from inside, the specific sound of moving water that makes sleeping outside easier. At some point around midnight, the creek sound changed. Not stopped, changed. Something was in it. Waiting. the specific displacement sound of something large moving slowly through shallow water. We both heard it at the same time. My partner reached for my hand in the dark without saying anything. The waiting continued for about 2 minutes. Slow, moving upstream, then stopping. I put my head carefully near the tent door and looked out. Something was standing in the creek 30 meters away, upright, still, in the water. The moonlight was enough to see a shape, but not enough to identify it. Upright, large, standing in the water looking in the direction of the tent. I pulled back from the door. We did not speak. We did not move. We lay still for the rest of the night. In the morning, the creek was empty. Normal. The sound of water over rocks. We packed and left. On the way out, my partner said, "It was standing upright the whole time it was waiting." Something that large waiting upright in a creek at midnight does not have an explanation that makes me comfortable camping in Georgia again. She has not camped in Georgia since. I went back once. I did not camp near the creek. Does something large waiting upright at midnight tell you it was crossing? Or does something that stops and faces the tent tell you it already knew the tent was there? Drop it below. Campfires go out 2 ways. They burn down to coals and go cold. Or you put them out with water and they hiss and smoke and cool quickly. My fire went out a 3rd way. I was sitting by it at around 10 in the evening, reading, the fire comfortable, nowhere near burning out. I looked up from my book and the fire was gone. Not low, not dying, gone. No coals, no smoke, no heat, as if it had never been lit. I sat in complete darkness because the fire had been my only light source. I did not move for a long time. Then I heard something in the tree line across from my campsite. Not movement, breathing, slow and heavy, from just inside the tree line, maybe 20 meters away. I reached for my headlamp very slowly and turned it toward the tree line. Nothing visible. The breathing stopped the instant the light went on. I kept the headlamp on and I packed up in the light and I drove home that night. I did not sleep at the campsite. When I told this to another solo camper, she asked me how a fire disappears without coals or smoke. I do not have an answer. I have camped for 6 years, and I have never seen a fire go out that way. There were 3 of us. I want to say that clearly because one of the things about this account that I cannot explain is that 3 people with combined camping experience of about 25 years all had the same response at the same moment. We all stopped talking at exactly the same time. Not because someone told us to, because we all heard it simultaneously and we all understood simultaneously that we should be quiet. Something was moving around our campsite, in the tree line, circling. The specific sound of deliberate movement, not an animal passing through. The consistent sound of something maintaining a fixed distance from the camp and moving around the perimeter of it. We sat completely still around the dead fire. It made 1 full circle, then started a second. In the middle of the second circle, one of my friends, without saying a word, reached out and put his hand on the camp axe. The movement stopped. Complete silence. As if whatever was circling had seen the hand move and made a decision. We sat there for probably 30 minutes in total silence before any of us spoke. The first thing any of us said was my other friend asking quietly, "Did it do a full second circle?" None of us were sure. It had stopped before we could confirm. It did not start again. We kept the fire burning until it was light and we left together. Nobody suggested staying the extra night we had planned. 3 experienced campers. Simultaneous silence. A hand on an axe that stopped the circling. Whatever was in those trees understood what that hand movement meant, Does something stopping the moment a hand reaches for a weapon tell you it was watching closely enough to see that movement from the tree line? Or does 3 people going silent simultaneously tell you whatever was circling them wanted to be heard? Drop your answer below. 6 accounts. 6 different forests across 6 different states. One detail that runs through all of them. In every single account, the narrator's first response was stillness. Not running, not shouting, not turning on every light they had. Stillness. The female narrator, whose boots were moved, packed, and left, but only after lying still long enough to understand what she was dealing with. The 2 male friends whose names were called lay still until morning. The male narrator, whose tent wall was pulled, did not move a muscle for 10 seconds while something held the fabric from the other side. The couple who heard wading in the creek lay still for the rest of the night. The female narrator, whose fire disappeared, turned her headlamp on slowly. 3 male friends went silent together and sat still for 30 minutes. None of them panicked. All of them came home. The instinct to go still when something is wrong in the backcountry is the right instinct. It removes you from the category of prey. It gives you time to assess. And in every one of these 6 accounts, the thing that came to that campsite eventually left. Whatever they were, they did not stay. To all 6 narrators who sent these accounts to Obscure Nights, thank you for trusting Obscure Nights with these accounts. If you have an encounter of your own, our submission email is in the channel bio. We read every single one. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok, links in the channel bio. This is Obscure Nights, where the cases nobody talks about get told the way they actually happened. Good night.